Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we are going to talk specifically about dealing with dropping a Dungeons & Dragons opponent to 0 hit points and a better path to do that. All right, so first of all, I think one of the biggest problems in Dungeons & Dragons is the hit the sack, take the hit points to 0 problem. Okay, so I heard Sean Merwin describe Dungeons and Dragons like this. At its worst, it's like hit the sack, whatever your opponent is, whether it's a goblin or a dragon. Hit the sack. It's either got 36 hit points or it's got 275. Hit the sack, take some hit points off. Hit the sack, take some hit points off. Hit the sack. They were at 0, right? And all these steps between are incredibly repetitive. Oh, I did 35 hit points. Or, I did 78. I did 35 damage. Oh, I did 78 points of damage. Who cares? What is the point of... It's a problem. It's a very real, very serious problem in Dungeons & Dragons. Hit the sack, take it to 0, right? And it's just repetitive. It's not exciting. It's a major problem in Dungeons & Dragons. But it's not that much of a problem in Dungeons & Dragons, and the reason why is page 4 of the Dungeon Master Guide. The rules aren't in charge. You're in charge. There's no homebrew in Dungeons & Dragons. You change Dungeons & Dragons to make it Dungeons & Dragons. It's not really Dungeons & Dragons until you've literally changed it, right? You are provisioned as a Dungeon Master, as an independent agent. You are provisioned to change the rules. So let's do it, right? So first of all, I gave a poke at this a little while ago, and then a brilliant commenter, Mike H, in the comments below, actually, he's in the comments below on many previous videos. We'll see if he shows up on this one, hopefully. And he really refined this and made it perfect. And so I took what he was saying and I've adjusted it slightly, but this was my initial idea, him responding to my initial idea, and this is his brilliant idea with just a few polishes of my own. So here it is. Okay, every single time. So first of all, let's transform hit points. Okay, so first of all, I track hit points with Legos now, right? So basically, I actually have the proficiency and the pluses for all attributes on a 2x12, right? Actually, I'm sorry. I think it's a 2x20 studs, and so basically on there, I actually, whenever a player character is hit, you put one 2x1 Lego stud, another 2x1 Lego stud, and then when they get hit for a third time, they go into death saves, right? That's how you handle player character hit points, and that's a more complicated thing, and there's whole reasons on why they only have 3 hits, no matter what level they are, or so forth, right? But let's talk about every player character's enemies, okay? And so let's talk about a goblin, 1 hit, right? If a player character successfully hits a goblin and does any damage, the goblin dies, period. Okay? That's a minion. And actually, this comes straight out of 4th edition. It was brilliant then, it's brilliant now, let's keep it, right? So basically, you put the miniature on the board to represent the goblin gets hit, you take the miniature off the board, or you put it on its side to show it's dead, right? It's that simple, okay? Now, every enemy, okay, so now, it's not a goblin, it's a bugbear, okay? So the bugbear comes up, that ain't going down with 1 hit. That goes down with 3 hits. So you put a 2x1 Lego block on it when it takes its first hit. You put a 2x1 Lego block on it when it takes its second hit. When it takes its third hit, you put the miniature on its side, or you move it from the table to show it that it is dead. Right? Now, what is a hit? Okay, a hit is any hit. Okay, a hit is any amount of damage above 10, okay? Below that, it's your discretion as a game master to apply the hit or not apply the hit, depending on how kind you're feeling that day. But if it's 10 hit points or if it's 80 hit points, it's 1 hit, okay? And a bugbear is going to take, and actually, we're going to get to, there's only 2 other levels. There's boss and there's dragon above this. So if it's not a minion, a boss, or a dragon, it's an enemy and it takes 3 hits. Okay? So one player hits it, they do 1 hit. Another player hits it, they do there's a second hit, and then finally another player hits it and there's a third hit. Now, I will say this. There is discretion. If they get a critical, or if the damage is a very high amount of damage, and I'm not going to tell you what that number is, and you want to give them 2 hits in one strike, you absolutely have that flexibility, right? So, and what I would do is only martial classes. Only martial classes hit for 2 hits in one strike, okay? But a minion takes 1 hit and they're dead, okay? Every enemy, that's the term, enemy, they take 3 hits and they're dead. The boss, let's talk about the boss. This is who the minions and the enemies served, right? So essentially, let's do it this way, right? Vecna. Vecna is a boss. How many hits does it take to take Vecna down, right? And Vecna is going to have enemies and minions serving him, okay? But what does it take to take Vecna down? 5 hits, and one of the player characters has to achieve a critical. And so that means if they do 5 hits, Vecna don't drop, right? And they do 7, 8 hits, and he still don't, and none of the player characters have achieved a critical, he don't drop. He drops when there are 5 successful hits and 1 critical, okay? Finally, that's a boss. Finally, let's talk about dragons. They are the meanest, baddest creatures in the game. What's it take to drop a dragon? 9 hits, and 2 separate player characters get a critical. And that means, well, wait, Scott, what if there's only one dungeon, one player character? They ain't gonna be able to drop. One player character can't drop a dragon. Period. End of sentence. Done. All right, like there you go. It's that simple. So and you're gonna have to get a cameo player character, in there to get it finished, right? And that tells them, hey, dragons matter. They're the big dogs, right? They don't drop lightly. And so that's how you get it done. Minions, 1 hit and they're dead. Enemies, 3 hits and they're dead. Bosses, 5 hits and 1 critical from 1 player character. Dragons, 9 hits and 1 critical from 1 player character and 1 critical from another player character. And that means you might get 16 hits on a dragon before that second player character critical is achieved, right? And so this is a good model in my humble opinion, and a much better model and much more exciting than you would get with hit the sack, lower the hit points, right? It's just a much faster, more flexible way to deal with the hit point problem in Dungeons & Dragons. Every single word of that is my humble opinion, and also the incredible assistance of Mike H., my star commenter. I really appreciate his help on this. This is my model. This is what I'm using for 1 hour D&D right now, and I highly suggest you pick this up. This is a great way to run damage in Dungeons & Dragons. A better way to run damage in Dungeons & Dragons. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.